got it in for the Arsenal. Look, I do. You've got to play the best team sometime, but the first 6 games that's harsh.
Yeah, it is to play 3 of last season's top 5, and obviously we're one of those top 5 as well. Makes it very, very difficult for sure. But I think it was interesting what you guys were just saying there about the need to kind of get that centre forward in. What it could do is give Arsenal the kick up the backside that they need to get going in this transfer window, because they can't afford to go into the start of the season not quite right. Now, I know the first few games are always a little bit up and down in terms of fitness and people trying to get on track, but for Arsenal, who it feels like are maybe dragging their heels a little bit at the moment in the transfer window, actually this is probably a bit of a wake-up call that says we have to be ready. We have to get the majority of our business done ahead of pre-season starting in about 3.5 weeks time.
Yeah, I think you're right, Harry. And by the way, I also said yesterday, Dino and Harry, that you look at PSG going on to win the final that they did. Arsenal were close to beating PSG, apart from the goalkeeper, who was outstanding both legs. So Arsenal are not missing a lot, Harry. Do you know what I mean?
No, and when Liverpool won the league, as they won the league, they only lost 2 games. So it's not as if they could do a lot about it. Even if you had a striker, would you have overcome Liverpool?
Yeah.
When they've only lost 2. But so their options, right? I'm looking at their options, Arsenal, with the strikers. They got Gyokeres, they got Sesko, Isak, Nunez. There's a few options out there. Depends where you want to go shopping. If you want to go to Marks and Spencer's, Isak.
And you might have to pay a bit more, but it could be worth it, Harry.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, I think, agrees that Alexander Isak would be a game-changing signing for Arsenal and would probably see them get over the line. But I just don't think that's possible this summer. I don't think Newcastle have got any appetite to sell the player. And if they do, it's going to be at a price point that I just don't think Arsenal would get anywhere near. So I don't think that one's a likely outcome. But I think Sesko and Gyokeres are probably the 2 that are being spoken about the most at the moment. Sesko is someone that Arsenal have been watching since last summer. We know that. We know that they tried for him last summer. We know that they inquired about the possibility of signing him in January as well. And Arsenal didn't do that in the end because RB Leipzig were not interested in allowing the player to leave at that point. But the problem with something like that is when a pursuit goes on for such a long time, when that interest continues, you get to a point where there's now a pressure to execute that deal. And 19 days into June, I'm not saying that you expect all your business to be done at this stage. It is still relatively early. But I think Arsenal fans were able to kind of stomach the lack of business in January and maybe an underwhelming summer last time around, if we're being honest, because they thought that it meant that going into this summer, everything will be prepared, Arsenal will be ready to go, and there wouldn't be any messing around. But at the moment, it doesn't sound like there's an agreement with Benjamin Sesko on a personal level, and it doesn't sound like Arsenal are anywhere near RB Leipzig's valuation. So, that's based on what we're reading and what we're hearing at the moment, but it's causing a bit of anxiety, I'd say, within the Arsenal fan base at the moment. And then you've got Victor Gyokeres as well, who would also go for a pretty big fee, I'd imagine north of £60 million. Great goal record in Portugal, but how is that going to translate into Premier League football? That's the question. Someone put it to me brilliantly the other day. He said, what's the exchange rate? What do those 39 goals in the Portuguese top flight translate to in the Premier League? And there's always that risk, isn't there, when you bring a player in from another league? So, I mean, I'd be happy with either of them, to be honest. I think they're both good options, but I think there is just a little bit of frustration creeping in among the Arsenal fan base because it feels like we're no closer really to identifying the main bulk of our business, and that's a worry. Thomas Partey could leave as well, guys, which means that Arsenal are going to need to go out, in my opinion, and bring in another midfield player as well. So there's a lot to do for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're at the critical stage yet, but pre-season's 3 weeks away.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it?
I remember John Toshak saying to me years and years ago, right? He said, you can be the best coach in the world, you can be the best motivator in the world, you can be the best tactically in the world, but you've got to pay for a goal. So in other words, what do you value a 20 goal a season striker? The first figure comes into my head is 100 million. That's Harry Kane.
Yeah.
So for 60 million,